All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the month again. It is the final day of August before we move into September, so that means more One Piece reflections. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another iteration of One Piece Reflections, where we talk about all the chapters of One Piece we get each and every single month. Now, we got 3 chapters for August, and it pretty much brings about the end of the Egghead Arc. Though we don't know officially when the end of the Egghead Arc is, we don't know if it's going to be this upcoming chapter. Well, not upcoming because we're still on break. We don't know if it's going to be the next chapter, but for all intents and purposes, the events of Egghead are over. So with the final 2 chapters, we pretty much see the end of the Egghead situation, and we start to progress towards Elbaf. So let's go ahead and get started with the first chapter that we got in the month of August on August 4th, chapter 1122, which was actually a phenomenal chapter. Chapter 1122, Time is Right. Now, this also was a chapter to commemorate the My Hero Academia finishing its run when this chapter originally released. But what it shows is Vegapunk's message after he said that whoever lays claim to the fate of the world lies in the hands of whoever claims the One Piece. And everyone across the world, after hearing Vegapunk's message, pirates and regular people alike, they all respond accordingly. Pirates are all like, oh yeah, pirates will be able to rule the world, let's go! And then you have civilians who are going, oh no, pirates, whom the fate of the world may lay in the hands of whoever finds the One Piece? Do something, Navy! So of course you get regular civilians' opinions on this. But we all see like the different reactions from people all over the world, including all the way into Impel Down. And that includes everyone over at Navy HQ as well, as they're hearing all of this. How can this be happening? What have you done, Vegapunk? Pretty much reigniting the golden age of piracy once again. Sabo is hearing this. Well, no, not Sabo. But Kobe is hearing this along with Hibari and Prince Gruss, because, you know, Kobe's recovering after the events of Garp launching a rescue operation on the island, Pirate Island. And Kobe is thinking about when Luffy was saying that he wanted to become king of the pirates. King of the pirates? Well, fame, powered, you'd have to achieve it all. Don't tell me you're after the One Piece. And Kobe comes to the conclusion of, I have to stop your dream from being realized. Meaning that Kobe is serious about stopping Luffy. Even though he treats Luffy as one of his best friends, literally the one person that really, really encouraged him to go after whatever he wanted to do in life, especially after he rescued him from Malvita. Kobe, and mind you, Kobe has had a very strong resolve ever since we've seen him across this entire series, but it kind of falters a little bit when it comes to Luffy, simply because he owes so much to Luffy. But seeing Kobe now and all the situations that he's been in, his resolve has basically been strengthened by this whole event that's been happening on Egghead, where he realizes the fate of the world may lie in the hands of a pirate. Even if it's Luffy, I need to stop him. Because we don't know exactly what will happen when someone gets the One Piece. That's a way off long theory that we can talk about another time. But Kobe has pretty much resolved himself to stopping Luffy. He has to stop him. Then we have Buggy going, the world is mine, you idiots, who said I wanted such a thing? And then, of course, his crewmates, who are completely stupid, have no idea that Buggy is a fraud. Well, in terms of everything that he does that makes him look big, but it's really Crocodile. It's really Crocodile and Mihawk and everyone else who are behind him that make him look good. He goes, the world is ours, right? And then all of his little subordinates start crying because, you know, they worship Buggy. And then we have Crocodile and Mihawk going, sit. And he goes, yes, sir. Then we have Katarina Devon, who is speaking to Caribou, because Caribou has a lot of information that he's been carrying ever since he encountered the Straw Hat crew back on Fishman Island. And that was way long ago. I can see Fishman Island right there. Yeah, Fishman Island from volume 62, going all the way from volume 62 all to way over now. Caribou has heard more than enough from the Straw Hat crew to realize that all the information that the Straw Hats have been hoarding, and I wouldn't necessarily say hoarding, but all the information that they've had, such as finding out that Shirahoshi is the personification of Poseidon, finding out that the rogue poneglyphs are here, there, and everywhere, and all. Not only that, but also finding out so many vital informations that should be secret, because he's been listening in, because, you know, he's a spy, finding out information while he was on Wano. All these different things, and he's here with Katarina Devon because he wants to tell all of this to Blackbeard. And Katarina goes, "What's the plan, Teach? We could kill him right now." "Who, Caribou?" "Master Teach, I promise. What I have to share will delight you." "Bring him to me. If what he has to say doesn't blow me away, we'll blow him away." So Caribou is on his way to finally meet Blackbeard. And, you know, that's already a bad situation because of everything that Caribou knows. Then we cut back to the message with Vegapunk going, "That is simply the truth. Joy Boy is..." And before the transmission can continue, Warcury, and it also says his, and I don't know if the his is part of a different word like history, but it gets interrupted because Warcury pretty much gores the side of Emmet, the Iron Giant, much to Dorian Broggy's, shock. And the transponder snail that's inside of Emmet, it gets tossed around hard enough for it to break the shell on its back, completely disrupting the transmission and ending it. But as I said many times before, the Gorosei have pretty much ruined their chances of stopping this transmission from saying too much. Because, CDs, good to see you, my man. Vegapunk has already put the words in terms of Void Sentry out there, already put the knowledge of, Joy Boy out there, already put the knowledge of the name Nika out there, already put the knowledge of all the worlds that we see in One Piece are really just the mountaintops of regions that have been submerged underwater over the course of pretty much 100 years worth of growth. So much information has been revealed from Vegapunk that even if the Gorosei stopped the transmission, it's not like they can just say, everything that Vegapunk said was fake. Everything he said was falsified. He was trying to incite a revolt. He learned too much. Well, not even learn too much, because the Gorosei really don't want anyone to know anything about the Void Sentry at all, so they probably wouldn't even try and say, he learned too much. They would probably just say, he tried planning to overthrow the world government, the smartest man in the world. Now, we're past the point where the Gorosei can fabricate and say everything that has been said was a lie. Because given that it's Vegapunk, a lot of things that Vegapunk said was correct. Like his assumption of when the earthquake was going to happen after the Lelouja Kingdom was completely destroyed. And the thing is, so many things are not going to add up if the Gorosei tried to cover this up. Because you already got King Elisabello sending out one of his own subordinates to go check on the Lelouja Kingdom. If he goes there and finds that big giant gaping hole where that entire country used to be, that's going to confirm what Vegapunk said. And here's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is, all it takes is just that one example, that one point from his entire speech to the entire world for people to go he was right. Because you can't cover up an entire nation just being gone. People know where the Lelouja Kingdom is. Elizabello knows where the Lelusia Kingdom is. And if they go to the spot where the Lelusia Kingdom used to be, and they see a giant gaping hole in there, a giant gaping hole in the ocean, they're going to know that Vegapunk was right. So any attempts of the Gorosei to try and cover this up are probably going to fail, because way too many things that coincide with what Vegapunk said have already happened, and there's too much proof for them to just cover up. Unless they try to make it so that there's Navy ships patrolling the area around Lelusia, or at least miles upon miles away from Lelusia, so no one can get close and confirm with their own eyes, which I doubt that they're going to be able to successfully do, because for them to have Navy ships around that area, that alone would prompt people to question, why is there so many Navy ships right here? Why can't we go to Lelusia? I was able to go there last week. I wanted to get some quarter milk, loaf of bread, stick of butter. But now I can't go over there? Maybe what Vegapunk said was right. So even if the Gorosei try to cover it up, it's just going to leave people with too many questions for them to trust that the Gorosei are right and that Vegapunk was lying. This is a situation where the Gorosei in the past were able to cover up so much from the public eye just so the public would continuously look at the Gorosei with favor, the world government with favor. But now they've reached a point where they can't fabricate anything to overlook anything that Vegapunk has said the entire time his message was going. Too many things line up with what Vegapunk said for it to make sense before the world government tries to cover it up. So this is a colossal failure, if not the biggest failure by the world government in this respect. All this stuff that they wanted to keep hidden and under wraps, the world now knows of these terms. And they're given the fact that there's a lot of smart people in the world, a lot of people are going to start asking questions, if they haven't already. Mind you, I brought this up before, where the Gorosei can't cover this up. They can't say like, oh, it's just a made-up term, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. People are going to be wondering, 20 kingdoms banded together to defeat Joy Boy? And those 20 kingdoms became the world government of today? It's taboo to talk about the Void Century? Or look into it because it's punishable by death? That would explain a lot of things. I had a relative who was looking into the Void Century, and now he's gone, and I've never found out what happened to him. Now everything is starting to make sense. See, the Gorosei can't cover this up no more. They can't cover this up. Everything that went down in Egghead, everything that Vegapunk has said, they can't cover it up. They covered up the fact that Luffy and company defeated Crocodile and Alabasta, and they propped up Smoker as the one who brought down Crocodile. They wanted to cover up that, well, actually, they tried covering up that Impel Down had a massive breakout, and people all the way down from level 6 upwards managed to get out and are still out there at large, but in order to save face and not make it seem like the world government is faltered, they decided to keep that information out of the public so that the public is basically oblivious to all of these incredibly dangerous criminals, some of which whose records are so heinous that they were literally wiped from history. They're just out there in the world right now. So they covered that up. Then you have the whole moment where Luffy defeats Doflamingo, and it's just making them look bad over and over, but they really wanted to cover it up. But because Fujitora operates on a level of morality that the world government does not want to see in a lot of their own subordinates, he exposes the fact that the world government failed to stop Doflamingo from taking over this kingdom, putting it into ruin, and just everything that went down during the Dressrosa arc. They failed to cover that up. See, that's where things started to really go bad for the world government, is when Fujitora, a person with actual morals as an admiral, which is something that you normally didn't see with an admiral. The admirals, some of them questioned some things, but most of them, if not all of them, just did their job anyway. Fujitora is the first one to come along and just straight up question, what's going on. He's even vocally said to people like, does the world government think they're gods or something? Which is something that no one should be saying towards the world government if they work for them, because the world government does see itself as a god. It sees all the celestial nobles as gods.
Oh, our blood is so heavenly, you must do what we say because we are descended from gods.
That's their mentality. So along comes Fujitora, a person with actual morals who not only questions the very organization he works with, but also vehemently goes against them if it means apologizing and actually exposing wrongdoings and calling out the world government's faults. That's where it started to go down. Failed to cover up Dressrosa. Then we get further along, and then we have them wondering, like, there's no way that they could Luffy could possibly beat Kaido. So we need to make it so that Kaido wins in order to keep Luffy from awakening. Not only did that fail to happen, but Luffy awakened anyway. He awakened anyway. Their attempts to have Kaido kill Luffy caused Luffy to awaken all the same. Luffy probably wouldn't have awakened his devil fruit if they allowed him to just take out Kaido regularly. It probably wouldn't have happened. But because they decided they need to intervene in order to prevent a calamity for them to happen, they wind up causing a calamity even greater than they could have imagined happening, in that the Nika, basically reborn in Luffy, is now awakened and after in the world. So the world knows that, the world is well aware that Kaido was beaten. Kaido was beaten. Luffy is now one of the new 4 emperors now. So, and not only that, but Morgans, being the person that loves to spin tails however he wants, even if the world government doesn't want him to, exposes Luffy's awakened state to the world, which many of the Gorosei, if not all of them, were against, because they don't want anything about Nika getting out there. So that's another strike against them, where they fail to keep things hidden from people. So Luffy's appearance on his new wanted poster just showcases his Nika form for all to see, which is gonna cause people to question, why does he look like that? What is that state that he's in? Why does Monkey D. Luffy look like that? People are going to wonder what that is. And wondering will lead to questions. And questions will lead people to try and find answers to those questions, which is exactly what the Gorosei don't want. So that's another fault against them. Then we cut all the way to Egghead, where the events of Egghead is pretty much one of the most serious moments for the Gorosei as a whole. Not just the world government, but the Gorosei as a whole. It is so personal, it is so important that they take part in this, that every single member of the Gorosei teleported to Egghead in order to eradicate any and all witnesses. Take out all the Vegapunks, kill Luffy and all of his crew, and make sure that they get their hands on the Mother Flame and the power plant and anything else that they need, but they need to eradicate the world's smartest man because he knows too much, and also kill Luffy because he has the power of Nika, which is something they've tried to get their hands on for the past 800 years. And not only that, but they also tried to stop Vegapunk's transmission from going across the world, which they could not figure out how to turn off until at this very moment. And they failed to stop the message from producing any more facts, any more information for the entire world, which was broadcasted across all notable nations. Mocktown, Alabasta, Drum Island, Dressrosa, all over. Even over on Sphinx, where Marco was chilling out. Even Wano, everywhere we've been before, everywhere we seen before. Whole Cake Island, Fishman Island, all the significant places we've been to before have heard this message. Everyone has heard this message. The very thing that the Gorosei set out to do has pretty much failed. Sure, they destroyed the transponder snail and they greatly impaired Emmett, but they basically failed because the message got out anyway. Not all of it, but enough for people to rest with for a nice long while. So I said all that to say this. Too long didn't read because I went off on a whole tangent here. The Gorosei have been catching, as the kids say, L's for a very long time now. They haven't had a major win. They haven't had a major win since they fabricated that Doflamingo abdicated his spot as one of the warlords of the sea. One of the warlords. That was their last major move that they did that actually succeeded in working. Everything after that has failed. And it has gotten worse. Everything they tried to do after successfully fooling the world into thinking that Doflamingo left his position as a warlord has failed spectacularly. And it has gotten worse with every single failure. And it's crazy how they had a win and a loss in the very same arc. They had a win, fooling everyone into thinking that Doflamingo left. And then they failed in trying to have everything covered up because Fujitora just exposed them and made them look bad in the very same arc. And then every single time the Gorosei tried to do something and try to keep it under wraps or try to keep it hush-hush, someone or something would find out. Oh, let's just destroy the Lulusia Kingdom. Huh? Too bad. Sabo was able to witness you destroying an entire country. Huh. Let's make sure Monkey D. Luffy doesn't awaken into this state, because it's the most ridiculous power in the world. Too bad! Your attempts at killing him actually caused the power to awaken anyway! Then we cut to Egghead. We need to kill Vegapunk, and make sure that we get our hands on all of his information. Huh! You may have killed one Vegapunk body, but you still got another Vegapunk still out there who is not attached to you at the hip. Not only that, but you also failed to kill Bonnie, who is a person that has a higher authority over the pacifistas across the entire world, over the Gorosei. They failed to kill her. They failed to kill Kuma, who, despite having his entire mind and will wiped out, has managed to not only return to Egghead, but also defend his daughter and even fight against the very individuals he's supposed to be serving without question. And you failed to kill him too. You failed to take out the Straw Hat crew because Zoro and everyone else is strong, and Atlas, she gave her life in order to put off Venus Jodo so the Straw Hats could just jump off of the lava phase and down to the surface. You failed to go after all the giants because, well, you know what? We'll get to it. It's just the world government and especially the Gorosei have been catching L's ever since Dressrosa, and it has gotten worse for them. The more they try to push towards trying to cover things up or try to force their will on others, it has actually started to fail more and more and more and more. So, continuing with this chapter, the transmission ends. Nusjuro is right behind the Sunny as they're flying through the air. And then Emmett goes, "Sorry, Joy Boy." And it shows Luffy behind him going, "Giant Robo!" "Deep down I knew that you couldn't still be alive." And then Luffy, with his power, the voice of all things, can hear Emmett speaking to him, telepathically. "But you look so much like him that it brings back the warm feelings I had that day." And it shows Saturn, who is regenerating because even though he got blasted away and punched into pieces by Bonnie and Luffy in chapter 1121, he is, reformed and back on the shoreline along with the rest of the Gorosei, who are trying to make their way to take out Luffy and company and the giants in the process. "I'm sorry, Joy Boy. Sorry that I couldn't make you king." And it shows all the members of the Gorosei. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just the 4 of them. Because, Mars was sent flying all the way back. All the way out. Too far for him to have any sort of influence on the current battles that happen throughout all of these chapters. "King?" "So, what's your name?" "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will be king of the pirates." And then Emmett pulls a string inside of him, or at least pulls a string that's attached to him. And this string sends out the most powerful burst of Conqueror's Haki in the entire series. So powerful that every single Navy soldier goes unconscious instantly, foaming at the mouth, falling over. The heavens itself splits from just this singular burst of conquerors. Mind you, you normally only see the heavens split when two conquerors Haki users clash with each other. But this burst is so powerful that in this panel, with a semi-double spread panel here of chapter 1122, you see the heavens already splitting. That's how powerful it is. It's just a big old burst of Haki just emanating from the entire island. Don't die, okay? I won't let you die. And not only that, but thank you for letting me hear that old familiar rhythm. And the Conquerors just continues to emit from Emmett, and it's knocking out everyone. It's even causing the Vice Admirals, who are still childlike at the time, some of them, like Vice Admiral Dahl, she's feeling this Haki going, such powerful Haki, and everyone is getting knocked out. Who could be doing this? And what it shows us is that not only is this Conqueror so far-reaching, so strong, so powerful, that it actually forces all of the Gorosei out of their demon forms, out of their creature forms, forces them back into a human state, and then they are basically just transported right back to Marijois. Mars is back there sitting down for the very first time in the series, but all of them are back in human form, and they're huffing and puffing as if they've been incredibly exhausted. Then, Imu-sama is actually in actual pain, because he's screaming out after feeling this Haki from Joy Boy, and he knows this is the Haki from Joy Boy. In the biggest showcase of Conquerors, we got every single Navy soldier knocked down. The Gorosei stopped in their tracks, forced back into their human state, and forced back to Marijois via reverse teleportation. That's how strong Conquerors is. It literally reversed teleportation. It put them back, and even can be felt all the way from Egghead, who knows how far away Egghead is from Marijois, but so forceful was it that even Im-sama could feel it and was in audible pain, screaming out, with someone attending to him going, "Oh, great Imu!" And he's just thinking, they're just thinking, Joy Boy. And then we cut back to the Sunny that's falling into that finally falls into the water, with Luffy going, "You guys, you're all right." And the Sunny is right there next to the giant warrior pirate ship. And everyone is wondering, where did the monsters go? I don't know. They're gone. What could this mean? A robot with Haki? How does Haki make people disappear? That's just how strong it is. It just made them reverse. But we have Usopp and Chopper hugging up on Jinbei because, they're safe now. But we lost Atlas and Edison. And then we have Saturn, who is the only person that was not forcibly teleported back to Marijois, standing there amidst the fire, just staring up at Emmett. And then we get a flashback of Joy Boy talking to Emmett. "Remember, Emmett, only when the time is right." "Time is right?" "I've tied a knot of the greatest of Haki and locked it inside your body." "Whoa." "You're going to keep on living long after I'm dead. There will come a day when I can't help you anymore." "What? No." "And when your life is in danger, or someone else is in danger, whom you want to protect, that's when the time is right. Go ahead and untie that knot." "When the time is right, you'll save me." "That's right. I'll save you all the way from the past, just like I always do, don't I?" "I'm glad. Thank you. Then it's like you're here with me, even after you're dead." "Hey, we're talking about a long time in the future, all right?" "A long, long time. I hope I don't get lonely." And then it just cuts back to Emmett, who has apparently fully shut down. And we're back in the present, and that's where chapter 1122 ends. So let me just tell you why this chapter stuck out to me. One, most spectacular showcase of conquerors we've ever seen in the series. Sure, the last spectacular showcase of conquerors we've seen in the series was Shanks out on the outskirts of Wano, and he sent his conquerors all the way into the city, all the way into the country to hit Ryokugyu, which caused him to revert from his Logia state and say like, okay, I get it, I'm not going to attack them anymore, we're not ready to take you on yet, and causing an admiral, a Logia admiral, to just leave after that. That was the strongest showcase of conquerors that we've seen before. But now we got one that emits from an entire island, hundreds of miles away from the island, to a different section of the world altogether, can force people out of their mythical states, mythical creature states, and force teleport them back to their point of origin. And it's capable of splitting the heavens without it clashing with another Conqueror's Haki user. That's one of the greatest displays of conquerors that I've ever seen in this chapter. However, another thing to note is that this conquerors comes from Joy Boy, and we also learn that the concept of infusing things with conquerors that can be used later in life is something that exists. Now, mind you, we already know the applications of Haki when it comes to armament and imbuing objects that you are holding with armament Haki, and also infusing your own attacks with conquerors. However, we have never heard of conquerors being imbued into an object separate from the user and still retaining that property of being imbued long after the previous user has passed on. We've never seen that before. This is the first instance of conquerors being imbued into an object, and it lingers there. It stays there. And even after all these years of Joy Boy being gone, that Haki is potent. It didn't lose a single ounce of strength. Because it's crazy how conquerors can be imbued, and based on the strength of the Haki of the user, that power just keeps. It keeps like a fine wine. And then as soon as you're ready to undo it, boom! Then the conquerors just goes off. It just goes off completely. So now it just makes you wonder how many other things can be infused with conquerors. Because if a rope can be imbued with conquerors that when pulled will unleash that Haki, what other things can be infused with conquerors and left in the object? Is that the concept of Odin's Enma? Did his own conquerors get infused into the blade itself? And that's the reason why it's so strong and it drains the Haki from other people? Or is it something else entirely? All I know is this was a great chapter. This 1122 was a great chapter. But I am curious to see what Saturn's going to do after all this, since he's still left on Egghead while every other person is just left completely unconscious. So, moving on to chapter 1123, The Void Fortnight, everyone is passed out. It shows that even the Vice Admirals, who were once shown to be, relied upon to be resistant to Conqueror's Haki, are now fully unconscious. Vice Admiral Dahl, she's unconscious, and it's not because she's a child, because Vice Admiral Pomsky, who's a full-grown adult, he is rendered unconscious as well. So that's not even... Hold on, I had to move that forward. That's not even a thing. That's not even a thing to factor in it. It's just the Conquerors was so strong, it knocked out every single person there, except for Saturn. Everyone else is completely knocked out. All Vice Admirals, all regular sailors. Actually, the only person who's left is Saturn and Kizaru. Is Saturn and Kizaru. But we'll get to Kizaru in a minute. We'll get to him a little bit later on, because I got some things to say about one of my favorite admirals in this entire series. But in 1123, The Void Fortnight, they're all wondering what happened. The Giants are looking and they're seeing that every single person is knocked out. Actually, the only people who are not knocked out are Kizaru, Saturn, and the Seraphim, because they are still inside those sea prism bubbles. They're still there. They're still conscious. Everyone else completely knocked out. Kaku and Lucci are still unaccounted for, along with Stussy. We'll talk about them in a little while. But everyone is knocked out. And even Dory and Broggy are all like, it's true, they're all knocked out, captains. No kidding? Was that even stronger than Red Hairs? There was no hostility to it. Showing that even the Giants know how strong Shanks' hockey is. And the closest that they can compare this hockey, this burst of Conquerors, is to Shanks. Which is crazy. Crazy enough to... Now, we all know that Shanks is him. We all know that Shanks is him. The same way that Garp is him. But when it comes to Shanks, if you got people saying like, yeah, Shanks is strong, when you got the Giants, which is an entire warrior race, looking at Shanks and they're like, yeah, Shanks is incredibly strong. Mind you, these are giants. And they looking at Shanks and they're like, yeah, he's strong. Wait, was this hockey even stronger than Shanks is? There was no hostility to it. And the thing about Conquerors is that when it comes to Conquerors, there has to be some sort of intent. Some sort of intent behind the Conquerors. Yet this Conquerors was just unleashed with no feeling, with no emotion in it. It was just a burst of Conquerors just for the sake of bursting. And it's still crazy how that thing is such a thing. It's still crazy how that concept of Conquerors being emitted with no hostile intent or intent to subdue other people. Because when we've seen Conquerors hockey users, they usually use it as a means to knock out opposition, as a means to intimidate other peoples. There's always intent behind Conquerors. And that also helps that when you aim it, you're aiming with intent. Intent really helps with Conquerors. Yet here, this was just a burst of Conquerors just existing with no hostility in it. So while that's happening, Luffy's laughing and he's going, thank you, giant robo! And the giant robot in Emmett doesn't say anything because, he did what he set out to do as he's sitting in the midst of raging fire. And Luffy's laughing while Dory and Broggy go, then let's take advantage of their slumber and get the heck out of here. And all the giants, Oimo and Kashi, they all cheer and go, let's get going, boys. Set sail for Elbaf. And that's when everyone starts to sail away from Egghead. We leave Egghead in this chapter. We got the Sunny right next to the giant warrior pirate ship. We got Bonnie, who's looks like she's hugged up on Kuma, who's, like heavily scuffed and scarred. We got Zoro, who's huffing and puffing. You got Usopp, who's crying because he gets to see his masters, Dory and Broggy, again. You have Luffy, who's laid up on Nami's lap because he's finally done with Gear 5 and thus suffering the drawbacks of Gear 5. Then you have Sanji, who's there with the body of Vegapunk, which is in a section all by itself, and it's heavily shadowed over Vegapunk's face, so you can't see his face. With Sanji going, what you said back there just doesn't sit right with me. Was this what you wanted, Vegapunk? Was it? I couldn't hear everything, but you said some pretty outrageous stuff. And then we go back in time 2 weeks ago, where Shaka, Pythagoras, and OG Vegapunk find out that something is wrong. Numbers aren't adding up, and Shaka comes to the conclusion that someone has stolen some of the Mother Flame. Now, they find out that it's York. They find out that it's York 2 weeks ago. They have the entire knowledge that, hey, someone stole the Mother Flame. Let's go through the listing. Hey, it's York. What? And then they find out the information synced with Punk Records was all dummy memories. Even the video footage was faked from the camp snails along the infiltration route. So they come to the conclusion and they decide to, listen to some recordings that York has sent out towards the Gorosei, pretty much saying that he was studying the Void Century. Putting him on the world government's hit list because studying the Void Century is taboo. And if you know any information, then the world must forget you even existed at all. We must kill you. So they come up with a plan They come up with a plan after finding out that Leluja just gets up and destroyed. They say the kingdom of Leluja is gone. The details are unclear as of yet, but it can only be an omen. Pythagoras, keep a close eye on wireless transmissions and underground reservoir levels. If I may speak without evidence to back it up, I'm certain the world government is in possession of an ancient weapon. They've used the mother flame York gave them to activate it. We will see the grisly results soon enough. So, Vegapunk is pretty much going like, yeah, we all knew. We all knew that it was an ancient weapon. I mean, everything pointed to it. Only an ancient weapon could have the power to destroy entire nations. But Vegapunk is just saying, like, yeah, they use the Mother Flame to wake one up. And I think it's called Uranus, right? Did anyone else think this 2-week memory wipe plan was a little convoluted? Surely there was a better way? No, you're probably the only one, Halster, because you already brought this up when I was reacting to this. But it isn't convoluted, because given the nature of how Punk Records works, they would have to sync up. And if they all synced up, then everyone would have everyone's memories, and thus everyone would realize that York is behind everything. York would find out that everyone knew that she was a traitor, and of course chaos would ensue. So in order to make sure that they could enact a plan without arousing suspicions, while they find all of this stuff out, they have their minds wiped, but they also have like a contingency backup note in place so that Vegapunk can proceed but not arouse suspicions, because leading up to the Straw Hat crew getting to Egghead, they would still be syncing up their memories, for the most part. So provide as little information as possible, but enough for Vegapunk and them to do something without arousing suspicion from York, even though after wiping their memories, they wouldn't even know that it was York. So they go through the plan going, do you think we could apprehend York to keep her from causing more harm? No, it's already too late. Whatever York is after, it doesn't matter. Anyone who learns of the Void Sentry will be eliminated. By recklessly handing over the Mother Flame to them, York has demonstrated her potential value. We would never have done such a thing without thoroughly determining the purpose and safety of it first. There is still time for us to flee, Stella. Then I requasar an escape ship, one that will evacuate all the residents of Egghead. It is too late for us, however. Secret orders have already gone to various naval branches. They will hound us to the very ends of the earth, and to die anywhere else would be to die in vain. More importantly, Egghead has facilities and tools that Ohara did not 22 years ago. I have the means to maximize the reach of my voice. The closer I get, the darker it looms. Just what is the world government? If I must die, then it won't be for nothing. I'm sorry this had to happen to you. That's silly. We're both Vegapunk 2, you know. We were thinking the same thing. The only question, Stella, is what death will accomplish. Indeed, there is one other thing we cannot afford to lose. The cloud plant that produces island clouds. Those clouds might be the foundation of humanity's survival, after all, given what we know about, the world gonna eventually sink into the sea. And then York is going, huh? What's Stella doing here? Ah, York. Just doing what I always do. Giving the Mother Flame a little test run. If we can move this thing with it, it just might be the ideal energy source. That's true. I hope you finish your experiment soon. Smiling in this dude's face, knowing good and well that she outed him as studying the Void Sentry so that she could be the only Vegapunk and everyone else would die. I do too. But that it stays incomplete is my only hope. Then 2 days ago, that's when Vegapunk starts to do his message. And after talking with Shaka and Pythagoras, they go, they're going to be shocked by this. It is the truth, and everyone has a right to know it. No one will expect that the transponder snail is hidden within here, and now it's set up to transmit upon my death. And to prevent anyone else from learning that we have arranged this little trick, I will be erasing this event from our minds. However, this will come at the cost of many other memories, such as York's betrayal and the theft of the Mother Flame, and the imminent threat to our lives. We will be startled anew by these things. Indeed. we will be frightened all over again. However, our plans will already have been laid, and the utter disaster that awaits just around the corner is none other than our ultimate triumph. And then, of course, they get their minds wiped, and Vegapunk left a note going, "Good morning, gentlemen. You will find that within your memories there is now a void fortnight, but it was done of your own volition. There are many surprises in store for you. LOL. But I will leave you with one piece of information. The world government knows about your research into the Void Century, but rest assured that you have already put together the perfect countermeasure before you hurtle towards your glorious death. And one more thing." And that's when everyone starts to, all the Navy ships start to head towards Egghead, such as CP6 landing. That's when people started showing up, investigating Vegapunk, but also when York started holding them hostage at the end of the day. So it cuts to that, and then it cuts to Vegapunk going, "I want you to know, though we're going down to save Bonnie, I intend to remain down there." "Huh? But you'll die." "I don't want you to save me. Just leave me down there to perish." "Huh? You got a death wish or something?" Showing that Vegapunk had every intent of going down there so he could die so that his plan could go off. So at the moment he died, his transmission would just go out there. So he went down there on purpose, knowing full well that he'd die. "Certainly not, but I feel like my death might cause something to happen." "It sure will. A bunch of people will be upset. I can't just let you die." "Pretty please? And one more thing. When it comes to the One Piece..." "What now?" "I want your crew to be the ones who get it." And then it shows, we get cut back to the present, where we have Luffy and Usopp being praised by the giants. Luffy being held up because he looks like Nika, and Usopp being held up by, Dory because, they're all cheering. "A toast to reuniting with old friends. Ga ba 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 ba. Ga 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 ga." And that's the end of chapter 1123. So I like this chapter. I liked 1123. Given the fact that in Holster, I gotta reiterate what I said during my reaction, because I know you said it sounds like it's very convoluted, but to me it's quite easy to understand. One, we find out that they knew that it was York. They knew it was York. They knew that she took a piece of the Mother Flame and gave it to the Gorosei, which they pretty much used to power up that ancient weapon that destroyed Lelouja. But they also needed to make sure that even though York was the one who orchestrated all of this, and they were pretty much going to die or at least be hunted down, they at least enacted a plan to ensure that if they die, at least they're not going out quietly. So they get that plan together, they record the message that they need to do. Everything from the point where they find out that York is a traitor, all the way up into the moment before they wipe their memories, they do this one big massive plan where they have this transponder snail inside of Emmett that will start transmitting Vegapunk's pre-recorded message upon his demise, and also wiped his memory so that the next time they connected to Punk Records, none of their plan would be discovered, and York wouldn't be able to tamper with it, so everyone would be left oblivious. So that's the reason why York couldn't fully understand what was happening, because that's the reason why she couldn't, use her knowledge of everything that the Vegapunks have learned in order to figure out where the transponder snail was until the very last minute, simply because during their next synchronization, they didn't have those memories in there with them, which would have given York, a straight shot towards Emmett for the Gorosei to destroy as soon as they got there. So them wiping their memories, but also having like a little bit of, I wouldn't even say like just a pure cheat sheet of what to do next, but just a little tip of what to do without fully explaining everything, so that things, would go off without a hitch. I honestly understood what Vegapunk was trying to do. I honestly understood what he tried to do. I know some people may say it's convoluted. I don't even think it was me who brought it up in the stream, since I didn't come into the stream until towards the end, but don't get it twisted. I get why they did it. Was it you or it was someone else? Someone else. My apologies if I thought it was you incorrectly, Holster. But someone brought up that it seemed like it was a bit extra. It was a bit extra for them to, come up with this plan of wiping their memories, but leaving a piece of paper behind in order to, go through with this plan without tipping anyone off that all these events have happened. I don't know if it was you or someone else. I know it wasn't Ozzy. It definitely wasn't Ozzy. Sorry, this part of my brow was itchy for some reason. But given everything that's happened, I'm glad the plan went off without a hitch. So now we get 11:24. 11:24, close friend. So we start with Morgans arguing with Vivi because Morgans wants to fabricate all this news because it'll sell papers, and Vivi ain't having it, especially if it makes Luffy look bad. It's time to get the dance floors of the world bouncing, folks. We've got a fresh set list of tracks packed full of new news. Give them fear, paint a picture of utter disaster in the future. They're desperate for information, and the only place they'll get it is the next World Economic Journal. And of course, Vivi is calling him out on his, avarice for making stuff up. She goes, "You're incorrigible. Vegapunk spoke of hope as well. Don't tell me how to run my stage, little girl, or I'll tell them where you're hiding." And Vivi, not bothered by Morgans, not threatened by him at all, because when you chill with the Straw Hat crew, any fears you tend to disappear. People who chill with the Straw Hat crew and they're timid, they don't leave the Straw Hat crew feeling that way no more. You ever notice? And that even started before Luffy even had like a full crew. When Kobe was with Luffy at the beginning of the series, he was timid at first, but then that dude got a backbone afterwards. As soon as he was done being with Luffy, that dude not only got a backbone, but he also wound up being taught under one of the most powerful individuals in all of One Piece, and even grew to be incredibly strong in his own right. People who chill with Luffy don't wind up staying timid. So Vivi spending time with the Straw Hat crew, I don't know why my face is itchy, I just washed. The amount of time that Vivi has spent with the Straw Hat crew, I think it may have been Kohagen. Sorry, Kohagen, if it wasn't you. Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to look back at it again. I'll have to look back at that stream again and see who it was who said it. My apologies if I incorrectly assumed that it was you, Holster, or maybe even Kohagen, but it was somebody who brought this up again. But Vivi is not intimidated by him and goes, "Oh, did I say something to offend you, you falsehood-amplifying albatross? The intelligent people of the world won't be manipulated by your lies." And Wapol, being the timid, weak person that he is, even with his devil fruit power, he's still timid in the face of those who have more influential power than him. Because otherwise, because Wapol saw what happened to Cobra. He saw what happened to Cobra. He saw what happened to Sabo and Cobra. He saw the Gorosei change their form. He saw Im-sama, the ruler of the world. And mind you, the Gorosei noticed that someone was watching them during the events of that one chapter where Wapol was watching, but they don't know that it was Wapol. So dude is terrified because he knows something that could very well end his life instantly if he was found out to be the person that was watching the Gorosei and Im-sama in that throne room. So dude has been living on edge ever since he left Marijois. He's been with Vivi and Morgans, but the dude is terrified to speak anymore. He doesn't want to tell Vivi what happened in there, because if he tells Vivi that the Gorosei killed her father, that's just going to lead to a whole slew of events. But he's, trying to be all nice, going like, now, Vivi, my dear sweet girl, let's not forget that we have nowhere to go if we make him angry. Mind you, he's being nice now, because if Vivi ruins their safety up with Morgans, then they'll be on the ground, and that's where Wapol doesn't want to be, because if you're on the ground, you're reachable. You're reachable. Now, mind you, this is the same Wapol that didn't have any problem, smacking Vivi when she was a child because he really wanted to incite King Cobra and maybe lead to a war between Drum Island and Alabasta. Like he wanted the animosity. He wanted to catch the hands, but Vivi was smarter than he was and decided to, keep it quiet because she didn't want it to turn into anything overly serious, much to Wapple's, disagreement. And even when he reunited with Vivi once again when the reverie started, he still was snide. But now this dude you can't even make this man talk more than he needs to. He's trying to be nice. He's trying to do everything he can to keep himself safe because of what he saw. So the very same Wapple that was so quick to dismiss Vivi and even insult Vivi at every time he saw her is now trying to be all nice with her. Like sparkles around the head, smiling very genuinely. He's got his eyes all wide open, big toothy grin, trying to be happy because he doesn't want her to do anything to jeopardize his current safety. That's funny to me.
Well, you have a point. The truth's a good tale as well. The whole world sinking into the sea? But the sky is my home. I guess it'll be my era soon. So do you really want to take that attitude with me, princess? Sure it won't set you back in the days ahead?
And Vivi, still not intimidated. I love Vivi. Even as this dude is trying to threaten her by saying, like, are you sure you want to take that tone with me? Especially hearing what's going to happen with the world. You sure you want to give me a hard time? Because I may be your only salvation in this. And she's all like, yeah, I'm sure. Let's go. Let's do it. Let me take my earrings off. What's going on? Let's get it. What you want to do? Say when. She's not having it. I love Vivi in this chapter because she's not having any of Morgan's lip. Everyone else would try to avoid it because Morgan's is the person that can fabricate a story instantly and the whole world will just believe it because there's a lot of sheeple in One Piece. But Vivi, she all like, okay, hit me with your best shot. She ain't intimidated by this dude. And that's what I love about her character. Really, really embracing that D nature when you think about it.
I'm sure. If the world is going to be destroyed, I don't expect to live through it anyway.
Ah, look at this. A whole pile of juicy stories to gawk at.
Vivi, I don't think it's such a good idea to...
Emperor Blackbeard versus Trafalgar Law. Emperor Redhair versus Eustace Captain Kidd.
Might as well just call that Emperor Redhair defeats Captain Kidd because there was no verses.
Emperor Straw Hat Luffy murders Vegapunk.
And then Vivi is still giving him a hard time, saying, liar! Then we cut to Egghead as the fires still rage on. All of the Navy are completely knocked out. Sentomaru is in a small little dinghy, just sailing off on his own. Tears in his eyes, having to leave pretty much his home. And then a lone figure stands up on a Navy ship as someone is going, come in. Is everyone dead? What happened? Come in, Egghead. And it's Kizaru who gets up. Mind you, Kizaru has not moved at all. Wapple is in a situation kind of similar to Caribou, both knowing very important information. Whereas Caribou, if his information isn't good enough for Blackbeard, they're going to kill him. Where with Wapple, he has information that is guaranteed to get him killed. It's not the only difference between Caribou's information that he knows and Wapple's information that he knows is that Caribou has a chance of surviving telling this information. Wapple does not, because that information includes the existence of a person who should not exist. That even the Gorosei were ready to kill Cobra simply because Im-sama walked into view and allowed himself to be seen by Cobra. That alone, just seeing Im-sama alone was enough to warrant Cobra's immediate death sentence. So, at least Caribou has a chance of surviving with the information that he has. Wapple does not. That's forbidden knowledge. That is Void Sentry. That's even worse than Void Sentry knowledge. Because with Void Sentry knowledge, sure, people may hunt you down and they may end up killing you, but you may have a chance of getting away, or you might even be imprisoned. But if knowledge of Im-sama got out there, that is enough for you to be hunted down and killed without hesitation. Actually, it's kind of similar to knowledge of the Void Sentry as well. Looking into it, it makes it so that it's punishable by death. Finding out about Im-sama is punishable by death. So they're both kind of equal in terms of their consequences. But at least Caribou has a chance of surviving. Wapple doesn't. That's the reason why he's trying to keep himself safe with Morgans, because at least he's off the ground where no one can just like stealthily sneak up behind him and just, embed a finger pistol directly into his back or in the back of his skull. Because, it's not just limited to your back. It's you can bore a hole. You can bore a hole directly into a person's skull with finger pistol if you want it. But Kizaru is the first person to get up amongst all the people who are currently unconscious. Sailor, Vice Admiral Kizaru is the only person to get up. And then he tells Akainu, who is on the other end, asking who's still awake. Is everyone dead? What happened? Oh, shut up. Why are you picking up the call, Borsellino? What happened to the others? Every last one is asleep and foaming at the mouth. What's that supposed to mean? Is Saint Saturn unharmed? What about the power plant? Any escapees? I'm actually kind of surprised that Akainu does not know the effects of people affected by conquerors. You would think that this would be something that's common knowledge. For a person to be resistant to hockey and to have like a high will tolerance, not to mention being around people who are capable of using conquerors as well, you'd think they would recognize the effects of conquerors on other individuals. So for Akainu to be, I wouldn't say oblivious to the effects of conquerors, it's telling. Because he knows of conquerors. He knows of conquerors. He was there when Luffy unleashed his conquerors right there in Marineford. He was there. He was there. So he knows of conquerors. But has he not seen the effects of conquerors on other people? He should have, when you think about it, because so many people got knocked out around Luffy when those guards tried to execute Ace during the Marineford War. And he knocked out everyone with conquerors, to the point where, yeah, they all started to center on Luffy because he would be far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. But if he's all like the foaming at the mouth, what is that supposed to mean? How do you not know the effects of conquerors? Did they not teach you that? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's very telling for Akainu to not know the effects of conquerors after having experienced someone use conquerors and be in the midst of a war where conquerors was used with people and people fell effects to it. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the delay. Let me see where I was at. Yeah, it's kind of telling for me where Akainu knows of conquerors, but not familiar with the effects to recognize exactly what happened. So then Kizaru starts to explain, saying, "I'll have a report sent in once the youngins wake up. You better not have done a sloppy job on this one, Borsellino." And that's when Kizaru showcases an emotion we have not seen from Kizaru at all during the entirety of his inclusion into this series. "All right, Sakazuki, tell me something. Have you ever killed a close friend?" And he's quiet about it. Now, I wouldn't say he's killed a close friend, but he has definitely fought a close friend, and that close friend is now the 10th captain of Blackbeard's fleet. But Kizaru is thinking back to when he first encountered Vegapunk. "Man, you got a big head. I'm Borsellino, a Navy sailor."
How much can you pay?
"Huh?"
This arrest is just an excuse. What you really want is my brain. How much can you pay in research funds?
"Oh, you're funny." And then it shows Kizaru when he's a vice admiral. "And this is what it'll look like?"
And I'm going to call it Egghead.
Then it shows Kizaru helping Kuma and Sentomaru. They're pretty much helping Vegapunk build Egghead at this point.
We're building the future 500 years ahead. I could use a hand, Borsellino.
"You know I'm an admiral now, right?" And it shows Vegapunk laughing with Bonnie while everyone is working, and Kizaru, he doesn't even have his admiral coat on. He's just walking with like a striped vest, because beforehand he was wearing a striped vest with either a yellow shirt or maybe a white shirt underneath, before he switched to a full pinstripe shirt that pinstripe over coat that he would later wear in life, before he changed it to a black and yellow color scheme for the Egghead Arc. Then it cuts to Kizaru's memories of him taking his Amaro Murakumo and stabbing Vegapunk with it. Fatally stabbing Vegapunk with it. That's pretty much the confirmation that, Kizaru is the one who killed Vegapunk. And we see Vegapunk's lifeless body fall in front of his shades, and we see the reflection. "You want to know if I did a sloppy job, Sakazuki? If you have time to sit there and doubt me, then come over here and see my work for yourself, you ungrateful brat." This is the first time we see Kizaru have an emotional outburst. This dude has been chill. Pikurishita ne. Just so chill with everything. Unfazed by anything. Dude is just unmoved by anything that happened around him. But it wasn't until the Egghead Arc where we start to see some of his emotions kind of like fall through the cracks a little bit. But here we see Kizaru just have a straight up emotional outburst, crying because he killed a personal friend, yelling at Akainu, and is just also rage-filled because Akainu is kind of downplaying what Kizaru had to do while he was over there. So, what I love about Oda is that... Yo, Farhan! Hello, how are you? How is your day? I hope everything's been going well. But Kizaru is yet another person, yet another admiral who has had an emotional outburst towards Akainu, and also someone who was once seen... Well, he's actually the one person out of all the admirals whose demeanor was the most unpredictable. His whole justice is unclear justice. You never know what he's going to do, and that's what made him the most terrifying. Tekking said this years ago. He says, like, with Aokiji, he'll be kind of chill, no pun intended, and on occasion he may let you go and may let you live if circumstances arise. Akainu, he'll straight up kill you because he's a follower of absolute justice, which means that no matter what happens, I must eradicate all pirates. It doesn't matter who gets swept up in the way as long as I kill pirates. If you're a pirate, he'll just straight up kill you right then and there. What do you need to arrest if that person's body is just smothered in a massive mound of lava? That's Akainu. Then you have Kizaru, whose whole justice is unclear justice that you can't really tell what he's going to do. You don't know if he's gonna shoot a laser through you. You don't know if he's gonna appear right behind you and then stab you with a sword made of light. You don't know if he's gonna just put his foot directly next to your face and then send you flying miles out before you could even think about what happened to you. You don't know what this dude is going to do because his motives were always unclear unless he audibly stated them. But here we have Kizaru, whose calm, unfazed, almost impossible to shift demeanor suddenly reaches a boiling point where, after seeing him spend so much time with Vegapunk during Kuma's memories, we realize that this is someone that Kizaru has had a massively strong relationship with. And it was too much for him to take. It was too much for him to keep stifled down. So now we have Kizaru having a big old emotional moment with Akainu, to even to the point where Akainu has to rethink what he's saying. Now, mind you, and y'all brought this up to me during my reaction for this chapter, when it came to Fujitora arguing with Akainu, they argued back and forth. Akainu didn't apologize. He didn't second guess himself. He didn't catch himself to try and rein himself in. None of that happened. The same happened with Ryokugyu, where Ryokugyu was all like, hey, I'm heading to Wano right now, so don't worry about me. Wait, don't you dare go over there. It was just like hostile, like, you know, like superior hostile. Like your superior officer type of hostile. Both to Fujitora and Ryokugyu. But to Kizaru, this is the one time where Akainu realizes that maybe I've said too much and I need to shut up. Because the next thing he says after Kizaru has this big, loud, emotional outburst towards him is, I'm sorry, brother. Akainu saying, I'm sorry? When you got Akainu apologizing to someone, that's when you know not only is Akainu is in the wrong, and he knows he's in the wrong. You know, a person that sees every single means of everything he did from Marineford, like fooling Squard into stabbing Whitebeard, trying to kill Luffy, or even using the opportunity to go Ace into staying behind so he could kill him and thus try and kill Luffy as well. All these underhanded tactics, things that should be morally wrong, even as a Navy official, should be wrong, and he's not unfazed, and he's not fazed by it. But here, when he has someone who he's been an admiral with for who knows how long, we don't know the exact amount of time that he became an admiral along with Kizaru, but this history between these two, when you get Akainu second-guessing himself and going like, hey, I'm sorry, and after Kizaru has this big emotional outburst, then you know we've reached a point where admirals are actually starting to show the little cracks in their armor that we once thought they never had before. So I love this chapter because as much as I like Kizaru as an admiral, for most parts he was just incredibly calm and a complex character to try and figure out. Because whenever he did something, you didn't know if he did it for himself or did it because he was ordered. Unless he was told the orders to us, the audience. But seeing Kizaru here in an emotional state where he is driven by his emotions and not by things that are being told to him, this is a nice development for this character. Because now we know that Kizaru is a person that if he's friends with you for a very long time, he has emotional attachments to people. An emotional attachment to Vegapunk, to Sentomaru, to Kuma, to Bonnie. All that time he spent with them, he considered them close friends that mean the world to him. He had a hard time following through with his order, but he did it anyway. But he did so not vehemently. He did so reluctantly. Because when he was going to kill Kuma and Bonnie, he says, like, I'll kill you both in one stroke, so it'll be quick. Like, he didn't want to make them suffer. Even though he was giving orders to kill people that he considers close, possibly even family to him, he was all like, let me just get this over with quickly. We couldn't see his eyes through his shades because he was facing some inner emotional turmoil. And I love that we got to see a side of Kizaru that for so many years, we all thought he was just going to remain the same. So it's nice to see these moments where these characters who have always behaved one way suddenly have moments where they are capable of emotions other than indifference or just overall calm demeanor without, learning more of them as a character. Mihawk is an exception. I don't need to see Mihawk behave any other way than he does right now because he's Mihawk. He's him. He doesn't need a change in his own personality because it's Mihawk. But Kizaru, however, this is a nice, interesting change for him. So now we get to see him in a whole different light. But it remains to be seen just how things are going to go for Kizaru due to what happened. Because for all intents and purposes, this was a colossal failure. Egghead is in ruins. One of the Vegapunk satellites is gone, but still alive. The Gorosei don't know that Lilith is still there. The Straw Hats managed to escape. The giant pirates managed to escape. The message managed to broadcast. They weren't able to apprehend a single person. Sentomaru, who could be seen as a traitor to the world government because of his actions, he's been unaccounted for as well. So for the most part, this was a colossal failure on the part of Kizaru and every single Navy soldier who was there. All the vice admirals who showed up, all the hundreds of fleets of ships that showed up as well, and they don't have a single thing to really show for it. Sure, they got the Mother Flame back in the lab, in the Labo phase. They still have that. They got Vegapunk's brain in Punk Records. That's still there. York is still there as well. But, only time will tell if she is able to consistently prove her own usefulness. Because if the world government has proven that they no longer need you, they're going to make sure that no one else needs you either. So even though some of the things for the world government is at their fingertips, they got a Vegapunk, they got a smart person, they got the brain of Vegapunk, which I'm pretty sure York can access, they got the Mother Flame, they got the Seraphim, yet they don't have the very individuals that they were trying to kill or apprehend. For the most part, they were trying to kill them all. So, for all the things that they may have accomplished during this entire arc, the world government still suffered a big, colossal failure. Because one, Luffy and his crew are still out there. The Giants are still out there. The name of Nika is out there. The term Void Century is out there. The history of the world concerning what's going to happen to it in the future, such as the whole entire world being submerged underwater, that's out there in the open. Finding out about Joy Boy, that's out there in the world. Not only that, but Bonnie is still very much alive. The highest authority of all pacifistas across the entire planet, save for the Gorosei underneath her. Yeah. Their authority for all the pacifistas serve Bonnie. If Bonnie was around and the Gorosei were around, they would listen to Bonnie first. So the very individual that they needed dead in order for them to have absolute control over all pacifistas, all the Kuma ones, that is. Not the Seraphim, but specifically the Kuma ones. Which, honestly, vastly outnumber the Seraphim. And not to mention, not just the regular prototype Kumas, but also the Mark IIIs as well. They're under Bonnie's control, and she's nowhere near Egghead. So, for all the things that I just listed, the world government has suffered a colossal failure in their efforts to not only claim the life of Vegapunk, eradicate Luffy and his crew, stop the transmission before it said too much, because it said enough. It said enough. The one who lays claim to the fate of the world lies in the hands of whoever claims the One Piece. That's going to ignite piracy once again. They failed to stop that. Not only that, but the rest of the Godosei was forcibly sent back to Marijois because of Joy Boy's haki. So even less people to aid in trying to, tie up any loose ends on Egghead. So like I said, for all intents and purposes, this is a gigantic, colossal failure on the world government's part. They accomplished some things, but their overall goals basically failed. It basically failed. So, in this chapter, Akainu says, "I'm sorry, brother," and Kizaru is not paying him any mind and goes, "Don't even start." Then we get back to the giant warrior ship, the giant warrior pirates, and everyone is just, resting after this whole thing. Everyone is just sailing. The giant pirate ship is massive. Like the Sunny itself is literally one of those toys you give your kids where you get, those high preschool, those preschool little cars where they could just ride around in by, moving their feet underneath it. That is what you would give a giant child and put it on their ship, because the Sunny right next to this thing, it might as well be like a rubber ducky next to the giant warrior ship. But Jinbei is sailing, Zoro's there, Frankie's there as well. And it's apparently quiet. It's so quiet. Are they done partying? Sounds like they only had one mug each. I didn't think Luffy would feel so down. I mean, I know we did fulfill our goal, but...
I request a ride off of Egghead.
It was the 5 elders, a Navy admiral, CP0, the Seraphim, and a blockade of battleships. It's such a miracle that we escaped that. I still can't entirely wrap my head around it.
And I totally agree, still. This is pathetic. He's one of the 4 emperors now, and he's moping over one geezer dying.
Oh, come on.
And then York wakes up. Because she was unconscious this entire time, but York wakes up. And we're in, one of the cabins. The thing is, we're in a cabin of the Giants, but the whole area where everyone is recuperating with York is literally just a giant chair. You need a ladder to get on it. Everything on this ship is massive. So Lilith is wondering what's going on, and Nami goes, "Atlas knocked you out. I think that's why. Don't worry, I just heard the whole story."
You heard it? From whom?
Now give me a minute to cry, and Lilith just starts crying.
What part of you is evil again?
And then she pops out of it and she wants to eat. Then it shows that Luffy is, sorrow eating. He's just sorrow eating his food away. I like how harsh Zoro can be, because it's harsh, but it's also true. This is the reason why Zoro is the most reliable first mate we've seen. Because he's that person that needs to lay it out thick for everyone. You can't sugarcoat nothing. Not in a world where piracy is a life or death game. You don't need people just trying to gizzy you up and make everything seem like it's better than what it actually is. Sometimes you really do need some harsh reality in order for you to fully comprehend what's going on, and for you to, either prepare, move on, or do something else entirely. So Zoro is that voice of reason. He may be blunt, but that's what he's supposed to be. I mean, Rayleigh was kind of the same way with Roger. Roger was all happy-go-lucky, did wherever he wanted, but Rayleigh was the one who thought pragmatically. Zoro is the same. Sure, Luffy can do whatever he wants and be happy-go-lucky, just like Roger, but Zoro, like Rayleigh, has to be the pragmatic and mature one. Not, overly prone to outbursts, because after the events of Wano, I dare say everyone is starting to take, what they're doing a little bit more seriously, simply because they've entered into a world where they're entering into a world where incredibly powerful people are coming after them, are trying to fight them. They don't have time to be second-guessing themselves. They don't have time to be letting themselves be distracted in a world where the people are getting stronger. The more people we face, we're getting stronger. So here's, and you know what? I'll bring this up at the end because now I'm just thinking. So let me continue. So Luffy is just, is guilt eating. And he's, Chopper says, like, Luffy's in really bad shape. He's only depressed. He's so depressed, he's only eaten 5 bunches of grapes. And now, mind you, these grapes are gigantic compared to the size of Luffy and company. Because these are giant grapes for giant people. And Luffy has already eaten 5 bunches of them. And then Lilith says, I see, so you were feeling sad about me, Luffy. Well, don't worry, I've just heard it all.
What do you mean? Why do you keep saying you heard it? I was crying earlier because I was sad about everyone else's death, but it is only death by your concept of it. You see, the truth is, in short, they're all alive.
And everyone is shocked by this news that, what do you mean all the Vegapunks are still alive? And I'm thinking that it has to do with Punk Records. Because it's not exactly explained how the other Vegapunks are still alive, but I'm assuming that given how advanced Vegapunk was, if he's capable of separating his own consciousness into separate personalities that encompass the different aspects of the human mind, thinking, greed, evil, good, all these different things, all these different aspects of his mind, if he's capable of separating them, then I'm pretty sure he's capable of sustaining his own consciousness outside of his own body. So that's what I'm thinking. And that's what I think Punk Records also doubles as. Because if the mind of all of these Vegapunk, if the bodies of all these Vegapunks are completely eradicated, then how do you pick up where you left off? Does this mean that the bodies of Vegapunk satellites are just merely physical bodies to house their consciousness, but it's not the end of them if their bodies are eradicated completely? Because their consciousness can just be transplanted someplace else? I know this sounds wild, but if Lilith is really calm about everyone dying, like she was sad about it, but then she was okay with it because she says they're all technically still alive, because the concept of death is, they're all dead, but only dead in the way that normal people see death. Whereas for Vegapunk, a man who's capable of slicing open his entire brain, keeping it in a different spot where it could later continue to grow with information, I'm pretty sure he figured out a way where he could basically transcend death and allow himself to live, even if his physical body just straight up disappeared. Hopefully, we'll find out what York means when we get to Elbaf, because I'm pretty sure we're going to learn so much in Elbaf. But they're all shocked to hear that everyone is alive, apparently.
But to you, they're dead. What? I don't get it.
Oh, here they goes.
My point is, you did keep your promise to me, so don't feel sad, Luffy.
And then Luffy just gets happy again, because he goes, "Hey, giant guys, thanks for coming to save us. Yeah, are you ready now? Shall we feast? Bring out the food and the drink. Zoro! Luffy's better!" And then everyone on the Sunny joins everyone on board the giant ship. And they're going, "I've been waiting for this. Eat all you want. Ga ba 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 ba." And Robin is incredibly happy to the point where she's actually squeezing Chopper extra hard because she goes,
"I can see Saul when we get to Elbaf."
I'm so happy for you, Robin.
"I like that toast you gave earlier, Straw Hat. Who do you think you're gonna be?" Vegapunk said that whoever finds the One Piece will run the whole world. Who do you think's gonna be the king of the pirates? That's the whole reason I went to sea. I don't care if you guys end up as my enemies. You know it's gonna be me in the end. Woo! Cheers! And then the lasting narration that we get. The ship charts a course northeast en route to the storied land of Elbaf, home of the giants. And then it cuts to Warland in New World on Elbaf, and with someone going, "Come on." And we can't really make out who this person is. It's clearly not Saul, because the arm, they're drinking something, and the arm isn't big. It's actually kind of thin. Saul's arms are massive. He's got Popeye arms. So it's not Saul, but this chapter pretty much tells us that we are now en route to Elbaf. So no more Egghead. And that's the end of the chapter. At least dead in body, but his brain is still alive with Punk Records still active, meaning the other aspects of Vegapunk will probably still be there in Punk Records somewhere. They just need a body. Exactly why I said, like, you know, if their body is destroyed, then their consciousness still has someplace else they can go. That's the reason why I said that whole thing. That's just my assumption. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if this chapter is going to be the last of the Egghead arc, but we are done on Egghead. We are done on Egghead. Can't wait for Elbaf. There's so many potential characters to debut in the story and also room for many returns. Halster, Elbaf has been one of the most anticipated locations for us to visit since Little Garden. Actually, not just Little Garden. I think when Usopp was talking about Elbaf. Matter of fact, hold on. We're gonna do a history lesson. When was Elbaf first mentioned? Yeah, I was right. Little Garden. Yeah, Elbaf is first mentioned during Little Garden. Elbaf, the land of the giants, home of Dorian Bragi, mentioned all the way back in Little Garden, which has spawned all these volumes, well over 100 volumes. We are now preparing to finally go there after roughly... Actually, you know what? Hold on. Hold on. Let me see here. First appearance, chapter 865. Chapter 865. First appearance, but I need its first mention. First mentioned. Volume 13, chapter 116. Bragi explains his origins. So yeah, chapter 116, and the year was 1999. So December 13th. December 13th, 1999 to today. Wow. Okay, so looking at this, December 13th, 1999 was on a Monday, 24 years ago. 24 years ago. That's how long it's been. That's 24 years. During these 24 years, Elbaf has been mentioned. We've seen glimpses. The first time we saw a lot more of Elbaf was during Big Mom's backstory with Mother Caramel, and we saw her upbringing for a little bit. That's when we saw a little bit more of Elbaf, and we saw Yorl and Jarl, the elders. We saw Harudin when he was a child as well, but that was back then. And then we had sporadic appearances of it where we saw Shanks in Elbaf leading up to his complete decimation of Eustace and his entire crew. And we now know that there's a location called Warland. Yet from the imagery we saw of Elbaf, specifically if you use the anime as a reference, it is a beautiful land. It's like one of those pictures you see of Switzerland or the Swiss Alps or Austria or even sections of the countryside of Germany with mountains in the background where it's just the mountains are perfect, snow-capped hills, and then you have green, lush sweeping valleys. The water looks pristine and clear, so clear that you don't even need to worry about it having any bacteria in it because it's just that clean looking. Just a landscape that looks like it's straight out of a fable, which is Elbaf backwards. So all these years, all these 24 years, these 24 years of this series mentioning Elbaf, and now we're finally heading there. This is the most anticipated location of One Piece. Even just as much as getting to Laugh Tale itself and then the location of the One Piece itself. This location has been something people have been speculating about, wondering about, wanting to go to. There is so much about Elbaf that we've learned from other people's words and from flashbacks from the past that we don't know how Elbaf is right now. We don't know what their society is like completely. We don't know what life is like on Elbaf after Big Mom was there. Because, frankly, after Big Mom decimated their entire village when she was a child, at only 3 years old, I'm pretty sure their views on people from the outside is possibly skewed outside of the Red Hair Pirates and their subordinates. So there's so much about Elbaf that we learned from other people's words and flashbacks that I can't wait for us to be in Elbaf in the present. See what the world is like, what their culture is like, how steeped in the knowledge of Nika they are, because the sun god Nika is who they worship. That is their whole lineage. That is their whole history. They stem around that. Their whole celebration where after they go on this big old fast and then eat a whole bunch of semla is in celebration of the sun god, Nika. So I can't wait to see how the warrior giants of the world see Nika. Because we've seen Nika before, and we know of them from, like Kuma's backstory and learning about the fruit itself, and that's that. But hearing it from an entire nation that's steeped, that name Nika is steeped in their culture, I can't wait to wait. I can't wait to learn. Let's see, this mysterious figure could be a legendary figure like Shiki or a Scopper. We're finally going to meet Loki. The potential returns are endless. True, but I honestly don't think that figure that is sitting at the end of the chapter is Shiki the Golden Lion. Honestly, I don't think it's him. Because there's no reason for me to think that Shiki, just because one portion of the panel looks like, oh, there's just this one big slope on his back, so obviously that's Shiki the Golden Lion's long hair. I mean, you could assume that, but I'm not on the bandwagon of thinking that that's Shiki. But it could be anybody. It could be anybody. For returns, Kid is on the table. People have theorized Uruj and Enel. I like the idea of seeing Capone again, because while he's married to Chiffon, don't forget Lola is there with him too. True. But Uruj is the only person, the only supernova who hasn't had a real interaction with the Straw Hat crew at all. Bonnie is the latest one, meaning that Uruj is the last one. And I would be kind of confused if Oda doesn't give Uruj a moment where he can show up and he has a part to play as well. Because every single supernova that we've seen has had like a major part to play in different arcs. Law with Dressrosa. Then you have Basil Hawkins and Diaz Drake with Wano. Then you have Capone with Whole Cake Island. You have Bonnie, Basil Hawkins, Kid, Killer, and Diaz Drake for Wano, and then you have Bonnie for Egghead, and that pretty much encompasses, and Scratchman was in Wano as well, I forgot him. Scratchman was in, Apu was in Wano as well, so Bonnie was pretty much the latest person, and Uruj is the only one left. Because when the last we saw Uruj, the last time we saw him, he was giving prayers to Kaido before Kaido jumped off of that sky island and just face planted directly onto Kid's base before beating everyone. That's the last time we saw him. So it'd be interesting if we could get Mad Monk Uruj to show up and he has a part to play in the story as well. Because I feel like that's what Oda's doing. All the supernovas that we've seen throughout the series, Oda has given a significant amount of story relevance. And out of everyone, I dare say Bonnie has an incredible level of story relevance due to her lineage, because she is part celestial dragon, so she does have, celestial dragon blood running in her veins. So she's, she kind of has that going for her when you think about it. It's kind of scary. She is part celestial dragon. She has that lineage in her veins. She's, even though she may not want to admit it, she's part of that society, even though she got, kicked out. The blood runs in her veins. So, and not only that, but she has power over all the pacifistas. She's got a lot of good things going for her right now, including her being able to see the very individual that her father Kuma told her about, and she's right there on his ship, sailing with them. So the interactions with Bonnie, with the Straw Hat crew going forward, I would love to see how that goes on, because the very person that she was brought up to, look up to and fantasize about and told great stories of, that's Luffy. Like, the visage of Luffy taking on the appearance of Nika, that is something that Bonnie has been searching for, along with Kuma. So the interactions with Bonnie after these events, especially learning that Luffy has that form, and she's capable of accessing that form as well with her distorted future, her Nika-like future, I can only imagine that it's going to be cordial between Bonnie and the Straw Hat crew. Pretty much the most cordial out of all the supernovas due to who Luffy is. So I would love to see that interaction. But the whole thing about Elbaf going forward, I can't wait. I can't wait. Because we're going to learn so much. Because if we get Lilith to go to that library where all the books of Ohara are kept, or Robin to go to this library where all the books of Ohara are kept, we are going to learn. See, we learned a whole bunch during Egghead. Vegapunk's theory on what devil fruits truly are, his capabilities of replicating these devil fruits, save for Logias, because Logias are just way too complex, even for the smartest man in the world. Finding about everything that we know, all the information we just learned across all of Egghead as a whole, leading up to Gus going to Elbaf, we are going to learn so much more. We spent 2 years in Egghead in real time. 2 years. Can you imagine where we're going to learn from the home of the giants, the most legendary place in all of One Piece that everyone keeps talking about? Can you imagine? Personally, I hope Supernova-wise, I hope Elbaf focuses on Uruj, Bonnie, and maybe Kid too. It remains to be seen if Kid is still going to be a factor. It remains to be seen. Even though his status is unknown, Law's status is unknown, it remains to be seen. But given how he was, once again humbled by the Red Hair crew, I'm not sure that he's going to have a major impact. Because one, his entire ship was destroyed. That sort of thing does not get rebuilt in a day, let alone a week. So if Kid were to show up, I honestly don't feel like he's going to have a major impact, because he's already had his moment to shine. He's already had his arc to shine in, which was Wano. Afterwards, he got put on the bleachers by Shanks. So I personally don't think Kid needs to show up again, because he's already had his moment. I honestly feel like he doesn't need to show up again. Uruj, I wouldn't mind. But not Kid. He's already had his moment. He's already had his time. Bonnie, we can spend a little bit more time on. But Uruj, it has to be him. It has to be him. Also, what are your thoughts on potential new devil fruits being shown as well? Because we learned about some new devil fruits in the Egghead arc. We learned about the Age fruit. We learned, and mind you, it's not the first showcase of it, but we saw even more facets of it, and its potentially limitless scope in terms of its power. What do you mean you can access a future where you have an entirely different body type that can give you more strength? What do you mean you're accessing a future where you take on the visage of an actual mythical Zoan type god creature, a god person, and you could just access that power? What do you mean you are capable of tapping into potential futures where you have powers you don't have now? That kind of power is broken. And I feel like it's going to get even scarier should Bonnie learn to cultivate that. Mind you, she's 12 years old. She has plenty of time. That's the funny thing to me. Bonnie is 12 years old. She's still young, and she's already capable of using her powers to such a degree that you sometimes forget that she's not 22 years old. So her ability to learn how to use all of these powers and then master them, she's still a child. She's not even a teenager yet. She's not even 13. She's still 12. So her potential for growth is vast. It's incredibly vast. Yo, Abir, what is going on? Welcome, my friend. We're just talking about all the chapters. I've already finished chapter 1124, and now we're just talking about what we could possibly discover when we get to Elbaf, because we're en route to Elbaf. We are done at Egghead. One thing I would actually like to see, I think we're going to see some more powerful Paramecia Devil Fruit users, and I definitely think we're going to see another Logia. Look, Logias are rare. We already seen one that turns into ice. Matter of fact, let's pull this up. How many Logias have we encountered? I know I haven't done this since we did our Devil Fruit deep dives, but how many Logia types do we have in the series that are canon? 13. We have 13 canon and 3 that are non-canon, and they're all part of movies, and 1 is part of a video game. But we have 13 Logia types. 13 Logia fruits canon in the series. I would love to see some brand new devil fruits in general. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a giant with a devil fruit. Mind you, we do have one. We do have one, but it's kind of a filler arc. Lily Estomach. Lily Estomach. Or Lily Estomach, if you want to be fancy with it. And she has the power to alter her size. She's a giant, but she can also shrink her body down. But that's a giant, non-canon wise, that has a devil fruit. But I would love to see that actually has a devil fruit. I don't think we'll see too much Zoan, since Wano was a Zoan-focused arc, and I feel the Zoan aspect could be made up with the giant beasts that live on Elbaf. Yeah, plus... yeah, she has the shrinking fruit. I'm so excited about Elbaf. It's always fun to discover new locations in One Piece. It is. It is. We learned, we saw Wano and its squalor because of Orochi and Kaido, but we got to find out how the people of Wano lived and how so detached from the outside world they were that devil fruit powers are seen as magic in their world. And I'm just curious to see everything for Elbaf, because we're going to Elbaf. We're not talking about it anymore. We're not preparing for it anymore. We're heading there now. The story is literally sailing in that direction. We're going to Elbaf after 24 years. We're finally going there. That's amazing to me. Can't wait for all the backstories for the Giants race. I'm pretty sure, you know what I wouldn't be surprised if they brought up? If they referenced Big Mom and her rampage when she was 3 years old. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of referenced towards her a little bit due to her actions as a child, and also due to her trying to get her own daughter to marry Loki so she could have access to giants in Elbaf and have them be a part of her nation in Totland. But I can't wait to learn everything about Elbaf. But here's another thing that I also hope that Oda does. And if he doesn't, I'm not gonna, be upset about it. I would love to see the Navy after once they settle down and they get back to headquarters. I would love to see life with the Marines after this big mess up at Egghead. How everyone's operating, how Kizaru's operating, how everyone is behaving after this colossal failure on their part. Because by far, this is one of, if not the biggest failure they've ever faced. So I would love to see how the Navy responds to not only failing to eradicate everyone on Egghead, but also failing to complete so many of their objectives, which was, take out all the Vegapunks. One is still alive with York, and the other is with the Straw Hat crew. Then they failed to kill Bonnie, who has the highest authority over all the pacifistas, not counting the Seraphim, but just specifically the pacifistas. They failed to kill Luffy, because he's the embodiment of Nika, and that's a name that doesn't need to exist in the world, according to the world government. They failed to take out the giants, because apparently the Gorosei, let's not forget, the Gorosei has said that they have a vendetta against the giant race. So that's another conversation that needs to be brought up as to why the Gorosei have such a massive vendetta against the giants. Because as soon as Dory and Bragi showed up, they says yes, we have something against your kind as well. So I would love for that to be brought up again. Because don't forget that got brought up when Warcury was fighting Dory and Bragi. So I would love to see why the world government has such a massive problem with the giants to the point of contention. So that's another thing. Them trying to stop them all from escaping, that pretty much failed, and they were all forcibly sent back to Marijois. The transmission from Vegapunk was able to play with a vast amount of knowledge being broadcast to the world, despite their best efforts to shut it down. And even though they kind of faltered it a little bit, they kind of shook up the transmission and caused certain things to be omitted, some very important things to be omitted for us, the readers, but for the most part, the transmission still managed to play. So they failed to fully stop that. Because one of the greatest things about this is that even though they stopped the transmission, that did not stop the transmission from putting out there for all to hear. The one who lays claims to the One Piece also decides the fate of the world. The fate of the world lies in the hands of the one who claims the One Piece. That statement alone being broadcast to the entire world for both civilians, Navy, and pirates alike just reignites the golden age of piracy like Whitebeard did before and what Roger started way earlier on. So this is, by all intents and purposes, this whole endeavor of the world government conjuring up all of these ships, getting all these vice admirals, all of these hundreds upon, if not thousands of soldiers, all to convene to one location, and they barely accomplish more than half of their goal. And not only that, but every single person there was knocked out, save for Saturn and Kizaru and the Seraphim, and they themselves weren't able to keep everyone else from escaping. This, by all intents and purposes, was a massive failure. Despite the perks that they managed to gain, this was a massive failure by the world government in what could be seen as one of the biggest military operations they've ever put forth. This is greater than the numbers they amassed in order to take on Whitebeard. This is greater than the numbers they used in order to completely eradicate Ohara with a Buster Call. This is greater than anything they could have ever brought together into one singular place, and they botched it. So I would like to see life with the Marines for a short while, like their whole overall disposition towards everything that went down. The questions that are going to be raised because of Vegapunk's message, which not only broadcast to every man, woman, and child all over the world, but also just blared towards Navy HQ and even in Impel Down. There will be questions. Whether they'll be answered remains to be seen for some of these Navy soldiers, but now every single one of them, Vice Admiral to Consign, all the way down to regular chore boys, they're all going to know what happened because this was heard all over the world. So I would love to see Navy life after the Egghead incident. Do you think we'll see the Navy pull up on Elbaf? Personally, I don't think we do, but I wanted to ask anyways. No. You don't pull up to the home of a warrior race's entire country where everyone is raised to be a warrior, where everyone is raised to fight. Sure, you could try and fight, but remember, these giants are big. All these warrior pirates literally started running hands as soon as they got to Egghead. Ships were massively destroyed. The only person that got massively harmed by an attack by a normal-sized person was, I believe it was Oimo, who got beaten up by Vice Admiral Dahl. I think it was either Oimo or Kashi. Either one of those two, they got beaten up by Vice Admiral Dahl, and she basically one-shot him. However, there are still tens of other members on that ship, and they were just going to town. Try being the Navy, and you're trying to roll up on the home country of these pirates, where everyone is all like, say less, let's run hands now. It'd be a worse situation if the Navy actually went forward and tried to roll up on Wano and tried to take over the country for themselves. Had Momonosuke open up the borders of it, because that's what the Gorosei was really hoping for. Hey, if they open up the borders, then we need to take over the entire country and command a presence there. So, no, the Navy is not going to roll up on the warrior kingdom of giants, because they're giants. Unless they bring the giant squad with them, and even then, they're probably not going to have an easy time, because some of these giants are like hundreds of years old, with hundreds of years of, like, over 100 years worth of combat experience. So, no, they are not rolling up. I mean, Dorian Brocky said it best. If you point guns at a home, don't be surprised if you get hit back. I know I'm paraphrasing, but the very same thing he said to Kid and his crew before they destroyed his ship, yeah, that applies to everyone. I wonder why the giants are a big threat and if Loki is the main cause. There's so many things to think about, Abir, concerning the Warcury's words towards the giants and why he disregards them so much and hates them so much. But I feel like we'll possibly learn while we're on Elbaf. Yeah, and wonder if the Navy is going to go after the One Piece too, going from what Vegapunk said. I mean, everyone, given the fact that Vegapunk said that the fate of the world lies in the hands of the one who goes after the One Piece, who claims the One Piece, I'm pretty sure this is going to prompt the Navy to try and find it for themselves as well. Because in their eyes, they can't allow pirates to lay claim to the One Piece, and thus the fate of the entire world. It must lie with the Navy. We even had some people saying that while that message was being broadcast. So now, it's no longer just a race for the throne, for pirates versus pirates. It's now a race for the throne for pirates versus Marines versus whoever else. Whoever gets the One Piece gets to decide the fate of the world. That is not a small thing. So it should be interesting. And I think I said everything I needed to say. But I'm really excited to see where we go to for One Piece after this break. Because this upcoming Sunday, that's the break. We're not getting it on this upcoming Sunday. So we're only going to be getting JJK. And that is starting to end very quickly. Well, very soon. So after this upcoming chapter, we're only going to have 3 more chapters worth of JJK left. And then that series will be over. And then I got to start looking for some other series to put on Sundays as well. Sakamoto Days is definitely one. Another one suggested to me would be Kaiju number 8. But yes, I am massively excited to see where the story of One Piece goes as we finally, after 24 years, enter into Elbaf. This was a very good arc. And mind you, we still haven't seen the one chapter that'll conclude the entire Egghead arc before we move into the Elbaf arc. But overall, this arc has been fantastic. We learned so much. We saw so many good fights. We saw so much history. Literally, Kuma's history as the most benevolent, kind, caring person in this entire series. Heartbreaking, yet at the same time, such a wonderful backstory. We got so many good things during this arc. Vegapunk, seeing him for the very first time, his history with Dragon, finding out what prompted the the Revolutionary Army, which was literally directly after the Ohara incident, finding out that Professor Clover was a D as well, finding out that Vivi is a D and her entire lineage is a D as well. So much learned. This was a very good arc. But I said my piece. All 3 chapters for the month of August in 2024 have been substantially amazing. I have to say that for me personally, and I can't speak for everyone else, Oda has been firing on all cylinders in terms of writing, in terms of characters, in terms of art, in terms of world building, because Oda's world building for One Piece is very, very good. And he's built upon that and made it better. And this whole Egghead arc, just all the chapters for it, not just the 3 chapters we got in August, but the entire Egghead arc was just massively amazing. There's just so much lore packed into it. Matter of fact, if I pull up the Egghead arc, the 30-second story arc of the manga, first story arc of the final saga. And that's the crazy thing. This is the first arc of the final saga, the final section of One Piece. The first story arc and the 9th story arc of the second half of the series. Because the second half starts from, the time skip onwards. But this is the first story arc of the final saga. And now we're done with that. And now we're going to be moving on to the next one. This is what we get for the first story arc of the final saga of the story of One Piece. And it's this good? Elbaf is going to be peak then. Beyond peak. But yeah, I said everything I needed to say. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been such a wonderful audience. Thank you for listening to me drone on for the past 2 hours of me talking about all things One Piece in the month of August. I look forward to what September brings us and where we go from where we are right now in the story. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what One Piece has to offer in September, then October, then November, and then even December before we enter into the year 2025. So, yeah, let's see where things go from there. But thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all the things that you've done for me over the course of this channel being a thing, whether it's, liking and subscribing or even other means, such as super chats and everything else. I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. It's a joy to do this day in and day out, and I rarely get tired of doing that. But when I do rest, I always think about coming back and doing this again. So thank you for making this such a worthwhile career to do. The channel is growing big. It's growing exponentially big. I'm seeing growth on this channel that I haven't seen in a while. So I can't wait. I just want to say thank you. This channel would not be where it is without people like you. So thank you. September 1st starts with JJK. Yeah, the 1st of September starts with a chapter of JJK. So don't worry, I'll have that thumbnail ready for you guys. Yeah, I'll have it ready for you guys because that's technically tomorrow because it's today's Saturday. But yeah, thank you for everything you've done for me. And I promise you that I'll continue to give you the content and stuff that you guys like because, I love to do this. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples.